There we are. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Wharf District Council. Not quite as long as delay as last month, I would say. But anyway, it's great to see you all here. And we have a lively crowd in the room. And hello, everybody. And we have a great agenda tonight, some excellent guests who are going to share some information. But let's start off as we usually do. And by the way, Mark is on Zoom, Suzanne is here, and I saw Norm, is John, I think John Larrabee's out of town, right? Okay. Anyway, so Officer Champa is there. Hello, Officer, and he's going to give us a rundown on what's been going on in our district.
Thank you, Matthew. I'll be brief, not too much going on. And then I'm just going to talk just for a moment about our spring initiative in the downtown crossing, Tremont Street area. If you guys have any questions after, I'll be here to listen. We had about at 9 a.m. The Intercontinental on April 8th, just a worker there, a doorman. He moved an illegally parked vehicle. He knocked on the guy's window, asked him to leave. He was blocking. The guy went around the block. Moments later, he came back. He parked in the same spot. Same guy went out, knocked on his door to ask him to leave. The individual wasn't there, but then he approached the vehicle on foot and he assaulted the worker there. So pretty uncalled for. Punched him or pushed him in the face kind of twice. We responded on scene. Our officer was able to look at the video footage. The suspect was still on scene. He was placed under arrest because a simple assault and battery, not placed under arrest, excuse me. A simple assault and battery is not arrestable in presence. So he was summoned to BMC court, however, so he'll be brought up on the charges. Aside from that, we had 2 p.m. on March 24th, a larceny over at the Loft, 200 State Street. An individual just went in there and grabbed $1,500 worth of clothing and fled. So we do see these large larcenies, and that's something after our spring initiative that we're really going to start attacking these larcenies and shoplifters. That's kind of next on our agenda. So detectives will follow up with that one. And then lastly, just an individual with a knife early in the morning. Usually we have these late night kind of crazy situations, but this was at 6:50 in the morning, Tuesday, April 8th as well, over at 4 Faneuil Hall Marketplace. We had 2 workers in a vehicle. The guy approached them, acting erratically and around. And according to this report, I believe the guy ran off, but the workers called 911 and started to follow him on foot, and he started chasing them again. They ended up going over to the Faneuil Hall office there at the Faneuil Hall Security Office on North Market Street. Our officers arrive on scene. They get a description of the guy, and it sounds like a guy they dealt with just hours before, running in and out of traffic, running away from the police. Like, this has to be our guy. And they did find him over on Franklin Street behind a dumpster. Appeared to be some mental health issues there, but he was positively identified, and we had to place him under arrest for assault with a dangerous weapon, the knife, and disturbing the peace. So that's that, and I'm just going to briefly describe what we've been doing over in the downtown crossing, Tremont Street, Boston Common area. I know that doesn't fall directly on your district, but it does cover my district, so I want to, every community meeting that I go to, try to just explain this the best I can. We've beefed up our offices. We throw in some undercover offices day and night, and kind of almost a no tolerance. I see the captain has just joined. He could probably go into it a little more if you have any questions, but this has been going on for a month. I went myself with a few officers from my direct office and the community service office, and we just did some door knocking. We're walking to some local businesses, and all of our feedback has been incredible. So I don't know if you frequent the area, you guys. I'm sure it's very close to you. You must walk down there, but if you have anything planned in that area or feel to go to dinner in that area, I've been on district now for like 13 and a half years. It's the best I've ever seen it. And we stopped and spoke with like 5 different businesses and a few individuals on the street last night. We're going to try to start doing this every night, every other night, as often as we can. And the feedback has just been incredible. The captain was mentioning at another meeting where we're starting to count like the needle count. It's gone from like daily was like 10, 12, 15, and now it's like 4, 0, 2. So like all great stuff. Our offices are doing great work, and just really wish them to be recognized. We've had like around 200 arrests, mental health, sections for the people that need, mental health issues and substance abuse issues and stuff. So, like I said, I believe the captain joined. If you have any questions for us, or if he wants to elaborate, aside from that, everything on your end looks great. So thanks.
I see, is it Sergeant Crossan who's on the call?
Yeah, how you doing? This is Captain Driscoll. I just
Oh, Captain,
sorry,
I didn't see you.
my apologies. I'm just going from one thing to another, just leaving headquarters because there's a lot of marathon prep. But I wanted to pop over and just say hello and just to piggyback on what Frank was talking about. There's going to be an RFP coming out pretty soon relative to programming on that Brewer Plaza and the Brewer Fountain area, just to try and continue the work. If we're able to kind of change the status quo a little bit there and get a foothold, we're hoping to kind of maintain it through a 2-pronged strategy of, what thing called a hub table, which is just an intervention with all kinds of providers focusing on, our main 3, big 3, the homeless, mentally ill, and drug addiction. But the other side of that prong is just programming and just filling it with positive activities. So that's supposed to be sent out pretty soon by Boston Parks. And I don't know if Chris Cook's on the call, but I think that we're just going to try and copy what you guys do on the Greenway. Well, not me, but them. In many ways. So, if when it does come out, if I can forward it, and you guys can forward it to any vendors or organizations that host times and fill and program space, I would love you to put the word out. Is there any questions or any follow up? Or
Captain, are the RFP, is that for food and beverage or for retail?
I wouldn't want to go too deep into it because this is like Steve Bickerton and them from Parks and also in conjunction with the Friends of the Public Garden and Friends of the Common. But I believe it's programming specifically, food vendors, clothing vendors, food trucks, all kinds of activity to kind of activate it. And I think it's going to go for 100 days. So I think we're aiming for late May, from a 100-day span.
I see. Any questions for Captain Driscoll or Officer Ciampa? Anybody?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I was on Washington Street the other day and noticed that all of the motor scooters are gone with the big signs there that they have to stay up. And it made such a difference walking in that area, not having those scooters go up and down. So the place looked great.
That's great to hear. We led the city for the month. We had over 50 scooter seizures, and a lot of it's voluntary compliance as well. So, it's a good strategy.
Terrific. Thank you, Captain. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Great. Well, thank you all very much, as always, for your attention to our neighborhood and keeping us safe. And thank you so much. So on the agenda, we are very pleased to have Rich McGinnis here. He's the Deputy Director for Climate Change and Environmental Planning for the City of Boston. As many of you know, Rich has been involved in just about every waterfront project for, I don't know how many years you've been doing this, Rich. 30. 30. Oh, yeah. I didn't know it was that long.
My tail end.
Anyway, Rich has been, I think, one of the finest public servants we have at City Hall, and he's been just a tremendous asset to our neighborhood. And he's going to talk about, I believe, the climate resilience project. So, Rich, nice to have you here.
Thank you, Matthew, Suzanne. So again, Rich McGinnis, Deputy Director for Coastal Resilient Infrastructure Delivery at the Boston Planning Department. And I emphasize delivery.
Oh, yes. Yes, 1 second.
You can just request to present.
Okay, yeah, you want to send a request or?
It says disabled.
Oh, yes, okay, hold on. I can get you in here. 1 second.
So emphasizing the word delivery in action, not just planning, but actually building resilient infrastructure along Boston shoreline. The planning department owns real estate, hundreds of acres of real estate along Boston, including Long Wharf, the Flynn Park in South Boston, Charlestown Navy Yard, Sergeant's Wharf. So, you know, we're conducting our own
Everybody here, Rich, okay?
Yes, we can hear them and we can see that presentation too.
Great.
Awesome, that's great. So our project is one about our asset, our real estate, understanding the vulnerability of our property, our tenants, how to protect our properties from sea level rise, sea level change. That's what the federal government is calling it now. We'll do whatever they want to maintain funding sources. And also, what role does our property play in a district scale line of defense? So if we're looking at a district scale flood barrier, you know, where does it occur in our property and when does it get built out? Our project area is strictly within our property area. So to the north, connecting to Columbus Park, and to the south to Old Atlantic Avenue and the aquarium. It also includes the water sheet and all the water transportation infrastructure at Long Wharf. We're sort of responding to the flood risks, the flood maps. Downtown Boston was vulnerable to near-term flooding, existing flooding and near-term flooding, not just the 2070 long-term flooding risks. We've coordinated our project with the Wharf District Council Resilience Plan, the upcoming Columbus Park Resilience Study, and the North End Climate Alliance Study. So all these efforts underway to just look at the modeling and determine, you know, how high we need to build and what level of design we want to utilize. This is just a scale of how high we need to build. So I'm going to be going through a bunch of slides that talks about resilient infrastructure and design. We use John Hancock as our scale. Since his counting room was out at Long Wharf in the chart house, he was about 6 feet tall. You may recall the floods from 2018. That was about a 1 foot flood depth based upon the existing grade. Sunny day high tide. So in a minimum, we want to redesign Harbor Walk to be dry in the future during sunny day high tides, which is about 3 feet, and king tides, which is about 4.5 feet from existing grade. The storm surge, this is us keeping the Atlantic out of downtown, would need to be built up to 6.5 feet above grade. So this is a significant change in elevation. How do we build this to protect the city from flooding, but also we maintain our connectivity to the water's edge? Our plan is not just protecting what's out there, but to improve the experience of the public out at Long Wharf. And we've been very busy.
Can you go back to that? I just have a question. Are you saying the one that's next to John Hancock, that's 15 feet?
That's the elevation above. It's actually the elevation at Old Atlantic Avenue is like 8.5. So we have to go up about 6 feet. So that we're going up. This is the North American vertical datum measurement. So not 15 feet from grade, 6.5 feet to get to an elevation of 15.
Okay.
So you'll see elevation 15, elevation 12.8 on the designs I'm going to run through. And just keep in mind that we're talking a range from 4 feet for like 2030 sea level rise projections to the longer term 2070 sea level rise projections, we need to build to about 6.5 feet higher than what's there now.
Thank you.
Our effort's been underway for about a year, 2 years now. We've been meeting with stakeholders, tenants, the MBTA, National Park Service. We've hosted 2 sessions of focus groups and 2 public webinars just to solicit feedback. In our first public workshop, we posed a question of what are people concerned about for flooding, and Harbor Walk was top on the list. The MBTA, Blue Line Station, water transportation services, the buildings, the historic buildings, numerous things, but this was just to scale for what people responded. And then, what features would people like to see improved as part of our resilience roadmap, and it was raising Harbor Walk, elevating it, shade during the summer months, shade structures, more open space, expanded ferry service, green space, green infrastructure, more public bathrooms. So, we picked up on all these, input, guidance, and integrated into our project design, our design principles, to prioritize in public realm, not just protecting what's out there, but expanding what's out there, increase access to the water's edge, amplifying the historic layering, the National Register protected buildings, diversifying cultural histories, utilizing compatible materials. So the brick, the granite, the light fixtures, we're not looking to change dramatically the built environment, just to expand it, and then increase planting, trees, shade, and comfort for the public. So our roadmap for 2070, the city did coastal resilience solutions for downtown North End back in 2020, and we had 2 alignments that we sort of analyzed. One was the preferred alignment was to build the elevations along all the contours of the piers and wharfs. So that was option number 2. And then falling back in the limitations of funding, permitting, but also controlling rights of way, we have alternative number 1 that pulls back and allows the wharves and piers to be independently protected, but not part of a district scale line of defense, or possibly floodable. And that's one of our recommendations for Long Wharf, is that it can flood with coastal storms in the future, but would remain dry during astronomical high tides. So we have 2 designs that will be fully studied. We're not looking to reach consensus on either of these 2. We're fully analyzing, providing the design, the engineering, the cost estimates. I don't think we're at the point now of making a decision since we don't have funding. We are designing our subsurface infrastructure to accommodate either of these approaches with the load, the weight bearing load of either of these recommendations. So the 2 designs are acupuncture, which has the main line of defense in that solid red line closer to the Marriott, and then the big splash, which has that elevated 6.5 foot elevation change around the entire contours of Long Wharf. So acupuncture is careful insertion of flood protection into existing conditions, raising the Harbor Walk. At a minimum, we want to elevate Harbor Walk to 12.8, which is about 4.5 feet, to put in more planting, to improve the MBTA egress pavilion out at the end of the wharf, to redesign it to be resilient, a step social edge out at the end of the wharf, incorporating a deployable flood barrier. So our main line of defense is inbound of the chart house and would rely on a gate that would close at State Street. The gate would only close ahead of a storm, but that would be part of the district scale line of defense. And the chart house parking lot would be converted to open space, green space. And as you can see, the image on the right shows you areas that would flood with a coastal storm. So we have to ensure that everything seaward of the higher elevation is retrofitted and adapted to accommodate periodic flooding in the future. And this just is a bird's eye view. The solid red line is where the higher line of defense, that elevation of 15 is located, and the dashed line is the elevated Harbor Walk. in the sort of near term to midterm, that elevated harbor walk will protect flooding for all of the wharf. But in the long term, the storm surge barrier is inbound of the chart house. So utilizing features such as aquarium glass, deployable gates, stepped plazas, ADA accessible ramp systems, raised berms, landscaping. And then the big splash approach has a raised harbor walk, a step down edge out at the end of Long Wharf, filling the entirety of the wharf, so elevating everything, including State Street, to sort of minimize how high we need to go to the water's edge. So really lifting the entire landform, more plantings, landscaping, consolidating the marine transit facilities to the north side of Long Wharf. We would consider that in either of these opportunities, and I'll talk a little bit about that later in the presentation of why we would consider that as part of this process, and then converting the chart house parking lot to open space. So this shows you that the full line of defense, that elevation of 15, goes all along the contours of the wharf, protecting everything, but also a significant height change, which sort of pushes us to do some dramatic landfilling and alterations. It certainly would alter the experience of the custom house block building, in that their first floor is now sort of an English basement, below grade, and their second floor would be the entrance of the building. So a lot of adaptation would need to occur for that structure and others. We're also going to provide guidance on how to adapt and retrofit all the buildings that could be floodable, with stop logs, gates, and other things, elevating mechanicals, to ensure that those buildings can be protected. We're also proposing, as a bold action item, is to do an acquisition of the chart house restaurant and to convert it into a public facility, possibly a gateway to the Harbor Islands, a location for office space, storage, ticketing for the water transportation providers. We don't have the money to do that, but that is our bold item, is to acquire it, but also elevate it 8 feet so it's protected in the future. So this is just a section. I'm going to walk you around Long Wharf and just look at sections of what the existing grade is. So we're looking at Old Atlantic Avenue, so 255 State Street's on your left. That's where Legal Seafood is. You're looking at the Marriott. So this is the existing grade. And this is how high we would need to build to address that acupuncture design, which would get to an elevation of 15. It would elevate the pier, assuming the water transportation service is still occurring from this location, elevate the walkway, and then you would have ramps and steps down to Old Atlantic Avenue, which would remain at grade. Big Splash is more dramatic in that we're elevating the entire street to just limit or minimize the amount of elevation that would have to occur at the water's edge, or just have less of a transition. An elevated berm, elevated walkway. It suggests filling in some of the cove to have more space for the public. I think that was one of the comments we heard, is where does the public convene, particularly during the summers? If we're putting in the elevation changes, are we losing programmable and usable open space? So there's an opportunity to bring in more landscaping, but also more areas for the public to use. State Street, so this is looking east down State Street towards the Compass Rose, and you'll see the water transportation facilities, Boston City Cruises, existing grade. This is how high we need to build for acupuncture, so hitting that 12.8 elevation to ensure that Harbor Walk is dry during astronomical high tides. So, not a significant transition from grade. And then Big Splash State Street would be filling State Street all the way to sort of the facade of Marriott, or at least to that area. So just showing you the transition between the two. Elevating the street comes with challenges such as, do we have to elevate all the utilities that are underneath the street? So these are things that we're looking at. And this is just a view of what it could look like, this elevation change for acupuncture. stepping up to an elevation of 12.8. The highest elevation would be accommodated with wall and aquarium glass, which is very durable glass that can hold back the ocean, but still you're able to maintain the view and light, and not, completely cut off from the water's edge. So this is just an image of what that would look like. There would be a deployable gate. If you look to the left, the mid left, you'll see like a sort of a white wall. That's where the deployable gate would be screened and would only slide out ahead of a coastal storm. So this just shows you the deployable, the elevation of 15. So that deployable gate would be about 6.5 feet above grade. And then just the various elevations of hitting our target goals. The big splash would be hitting that elevation of 15, so 6.5 feet above grade. And this just shows you how the elevated structures would accommodate a storm surge. This is during regular conditions, and then during a storm surge, this is how the project would accommodate that tidal flooding to hold the ocean back from downtown. And then moving further east on the south side of Harbor Walk, this is the existing conditions. And for acupuncture, this is how high we would need to go. We have enough room to build in a landscape slope, trees that are tolerant to saltwater inundation. So having your elevated harbor walk so you still feel connected to the water's edge, but State Street at its current elevation. Big splash, we're elevating the street so that you don't have that dramatic change to a harbor walk, that the roadway is more connected to the water's edge. The elevation changes and it's dramatic. But if you look to the left, you have the Custom House block building. This is current grade, the first floor you can access from the street. In this design, you actually can access the first floor or the second floor through stairs up or down, almost like an English basement. When you walk down Newbury Street, you'll see examples of the entryway that's at a lower level than the street.
Well, I didn't really do anything, just saying that.
This is just an image of acupuncture on the south. We have the flood barrier just on the land side of Harbor Walk to the right, and then a vegetated landscape berm where you can put in trees, and then maintaining State Street in its current form and program with the outdoor seating for the chart house. And then big splash, and then these are the elevations, big splash. This is with an elevated chart house, an elevated State Street, and that the entrance to the Custom House block building would be below the first floor, and there would be a stairway up to the second floor. And then this is looking west down State Street, the Custom House block building on your right. And this just shows you that it's the conditions on how we're sort of able to integrate this elevation change with, at least on the disruption to people's ability to see and connect to the waterfront. And then out at the water's edge, we have a terraced elevated harbor walk, so it's dry during astronomical high tides in the future, modifying the MBTA egress building, that pavilion, so modifying that.
Who's gonna pay for this? Mr. Trump?
Rich, can you excuse me 1 second? There are some folks who are not muted. Could everyone please mute your computer during the presentation? Thank you. Thank you, Rich.
So this is the acupuncture. So this would be allowing Long Wharf to be floodable during storm surge, but it would remain dry during sunny day high tides and astronomical high tides in the future. So this shows you how it functions. The buildings would have to be individually retrofitted and adapted. During coastal storms, you typically are not out at the water's edge. So the shoreline would be sort of vacated by design. The deployable system would cut off people from their ability to access the water's edge. So this would just be during a coastal storm scenario. For Big Splash, we're elevating everything to an elevation of 15, so about 6.5 feet above grade, elevating the MBTA station, putting in a terrace edge on the eastern side of the of Long Wharf, possibly nature-based features, just to add more green space and nature-based opportunities. And this just shows you how that design flood elevation would function during a coastal storm, that the wharf would remain dry during those coastal storms. And on the north side of the Custom House Block building, we have a really limited right of way. So this shows you the harbor walk. The Wasawanamu Marina is right, and this is how high would we need to build for acupuncture, so getting to an elevation of 12.8. So we're building up along the first floor, so any openings to the buildings would have to be closed. We'd have to work with that property owner on maintaining their code certification for egress in and out of the building. And we've been engaged with Capital Properties on these discussions. And for the Big Splash, going even higher, where we're pretty much eliminating the first floor access points by building up along the building. You'll notice that we're really trying to stay out of the water in our experience in dealing with state and federal sea level rise grant programs is sort of just discouragement of filling and altering the water's edge. And what we want to do is, if we do get monies, is to be able to move projects quickly through the permitting process. Now jumping into the Charterhouse parking lot. So this shows you the existing grade. You can see the outdoor seating at the rear of the restaurant. And then you see the elevated boardwalk that was built as a temporary feature back in the 1990s. I worked on that project. So it probably needs to be adapted. So for acupuncture stitch, we have an elevated open space, the ability to have a salage, like a sponge-like feature, elevating the boardwalk that you could actually cross over this intertidal area. So having some green-based options there. And then for Big Splash, elevating everything, including the Charterhouse restaurant, into one large open space that would be dry during all storms. So this is an image looking southeast. So we're standing at Columbus Park with the hotel to our right, looking out towards Waterfront Marina and the water transportation vessels of how this could be designed with the highest elevation, that berm with that seating wall with the lawn is located. And then this is to show you how it would function during a coastal storm. All of these areas would flood, they would be designed to be floodable, but the highest line of defense would be this berm that would protect the Marriott and tie into a higher line of defense inbound. And this is acupuncture north, and this is what would be floodable as well during a coastal storm. And then Big Splash, which would be, this is just a new open space, a new parkland that would be designed to connect people to Columbus Park. And this would just show you how it would function, and it would not be floodable, but the higher elevations would be at the water's edge, so that open space would remain available. So I mentioned improvements to the maritime transit. Why would we take this on now? Well, all of the land-based infrastructure, the ticket booths, the waiting area, the landing, the office space, all that is going to get swept away probably sooner than later. And as we're looking at, we'll see, do we replace these buildings, do we elevate these buildings? While we're doing that, do we want to rethink water transportation at this location? The cove in between the aquarium and Long Wharf is very tight. It's very hard to maneuver ferries in and out of there. And then if you go to on the north side of Long Wharf, the two marinas, that one a commercial wharf, though, one a waterboat marina, when they're fully occupied, ferries have a really hard time getting into this area and maneuvering their vessels. Also, many of the vessels that service Boston Harbor are not ADA accessible. They're not bow loading. And what we'd like to do is accommodate more dockage for loading vessels. So our goal is to remove or relocate the marina and accommodate new water transportation infrastructure on the north side. And this would also accommodate future service elsewhere. Boston Harbor now did a great water transportation study a few years ago that suggests more berthing areas. We were discussing, I guess they're gonna shut down the Mystic Tobin Bridge when they rebuild it. And they're talking about ferry systems to keep people from getting from the North Shore to downtown. You may recall when they closed the Callahan and Sumner tunnels, people relied on water transportation. So we really want to look at opportunities to improve the experience of public scheduled water transportation at Long Wharf. It's an opportunity to put out new docks that can accommodate the queuing that now occurs on land, opportunities for shade structure, and just to decrease the congestion that occurs there during the summer, particularly people queuing to get out to the harbor islands. All right, so that was a lot. Now I get to get to 2030. So I mentioned that downtown Boston's at risk of flooding much sooner than 2070. Probably not 2030 since it's 5 years away, and we're not seeing that progression of sea level rise, but certainly before 2050. And what we did.
A little more loudly, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
So for 2030, we wanted to look at, well, if we were to make some investments on our property within our project area, could we prevent these flood paths from going into the city? Like if the city, had its own funding source and wanted to build something within our right of way, which if you look to the right, you see that orange line. That's where we sort of study the flood barrier. The image on the left shows you the flood path for 2030, speaking all the way past Quincy Marketplace to the base of City Hall. So we studied these alternative designs for our 2030 flood paths, and we ran it through a model. And this is why this project has taken a little bit longer. We've expanded the scope to look at other alternatives. And what we determined was that if we were to build something just within our property area, it would have some improvements. So on the left side, you see the darker shade blue. That's a deeper flood depth of 10.6. And the flood depths decrease, but not significantly. So the downtown waterfront would still flood. The water would go around on the north side of Columbus Park, down Commercial Street, and then on the south side it would come over the New England Aquarium and down East India Road. We wanted to just go through this exercise to see if there's something in the interim to do. These designs will maintain. What we'd like to do is just look at this broader flood path and to do a study that looks at the shoreline from Sergeant's Wharf to the north all the way to East India Road, to look at a 2030 design flood elevation intervention to buy some time for the downtown waterfront.
Could I
Of course.
just interrupt?
Please.
So for everybody to understand this map, so on the left, that blue is the water, correct? The water's
Yes,
gonna
yeah.
go up. What is the furthest point west? Is that Broad Street? What? And State Street, so,
Yes, it's State Street, Broad Street, it's the whole
so it's, Broad Street is where?
street.
Is right there? So then
This is
the
State.
next street over would be what, Battery March or something?
I think that's Battery March, yeah.
And then State Street is right there, so it's basically going up to Congress Street.
Yes, up to Congress Street, passing Congress Street, to the base of City Hall.
City Hall.
Yeah, and this is Faneuil Hall, this is Quincy Marketplace, Blackstone District. So it's pretty dramatic, and it's our lower. It's a 9 inches of sea level rise, not the 40 inches that we're projecting for 2070. So just a modest amount of sea level rise impacts downtown, and that's why we wanted to look at, and we will continue. So this fall we're going to continue this study to look at the shoreline going up towards Sergeant's Wharf and then down towards East India Road, to look at what we could build along the shoreline to prevent this inland flooding. And then, you know, for properties that are seaward of this intervention would have to sort of adapt, retrofit until longer term projects like the Army Corps project is completed.
One way to open up Congress Street. We've been waiting so long for traffic to go through.
So this shows you the right of way of what we could build for 2030, what we designed. So there is a high ground at Columbus Park that we would tie into a deployable system at the Walk to the Sea by tiers, wrapping the hotel with the berm, a deployable at their loading dock, another deployable at State Street, and then a very porous wall along Atlantic Avenue and tying into a wall that exists at the corner that is actually our target elevation of like 12.3. So just looking at Old Atlantic Avenue, this is how a design could be integrated into good public realm. It wouldn't be just a wall. So what you see in red is our target elevation, how high we need to build, but we could screen it with shade shelters, with seating walls, landscaping and other things, but also ensure that there's enough passage from the Old Atlantic Avenue to the water's edge, just to maintain that flow. And those openings would close just ahead of the storm. So again, trying to maintain that sort of porosity of the downtown. This just shows you when the duck boats stop on Old Atlantic Avenue, what this wall could look like with great landscaping, seating, and shade. So it wouldn't feel like a flood barrier. And this is it on the seaward side with deployable systems that would close ahead of the storm. And then on the north side, this is looking east down Walk to the Sea with the park to your left and then hotel and T's to the right. We would tie into a knee wall on the park side at our elevation of 12.3. We'd have a deployable gate system that would close just ahead of the storm. So, you know, it would remain open like this until there's a storm forecasting. And then this is just looking west.
What's it sealed to? What's it attached to on each side?
It's attached to a new wall on both sides. So you see this wall here along tiers. If you look at the railing at tiers, that's actually how I would need to build. So that railing gate would be just sort of filled in with a wall. And the same with the park. We would put a seating wall at that elevation on the park side. And this is how it would all tie in together. And just, we did look, the cost to build that would be about $13 to $14 million, just our piece. And we're like, well, it's not gonna buy us a lot of, you know, resilience. As you know, the flood paths go around it. Probably not worth pursuing at the moment. But at least we wanted to fully design it and then continue the discussion into the north end. So just timeline, this will take years to build out, assuming we get the money. So, you know, we've just looked at, you know, what the duration of construction would be for the short term. It could be up to 40 years. And then for the 2070 long-term project, well beyond that. And it's taking that amount of time because we don't want to disrupt the services that are out there. We want to phase it so that during the summer, we still have robust water transportation, excursions and other things. But it is all dependent upon funding. And with that, that marine transit investment work is just a little bit over $14 million. The funding source for maritime transit infrastructure could come from the Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway Administration. They actually have good funding sources. It's possible that we build the water transportation infrastructure sooner than the resilience work. And then the resilience work, the acupuncture, is about $81 million to build out, and the big splash is $130 million. And then there's also soft costs and contingencies. And I know, you know, we're going to build all this great landscaping and parkland, is it on the planning department to maintain it, you know? We maintain what's out there now, and we would have to make sure that our budget is supplemented to accommodate all these new features, so a pretty daunting price range, you know. In the meantime, when we're doing our own capital work, we're out there improving the seawalls right now. So we're making sure that the seawalls can accommodate what we've just presented for our designs. And if there's opportunities for us to do our capital investment projects, to start building this in pieces, won't be effective, but different ways for us to implement this. Absent funding sources, and this is just a list of funding sources we could look to. However, FEMA BRIC was just canceled by the Department of Homeland Security, so that program no longer exists. That program paid up to $50 million a project. We understand that they're probably rethinking the program. It will probably come back in a different iteration. We just have to be patient. But this year's BRIC programs have been canceled. This USDOT Protect is another source of funds that we could look to. And then there's also state grant programs, but they don't pay more than $3 to $4 million. So that would just scratch the surface for this work. So the next steps in our report is we hope to have a draft out soon. We'll be published on our project webpage. We'll open it for public comment, and then release the final document. The Parks Department will probably be kicking off a resilient Columbus Park design sometime this fall. Our Long Wharf sort of extended 2030 design work will start in the fall as well. And then we'll just continue to see funding. And yeah, that's it. We'll up your.
Thank you, Rich. Are you entertaining questions? We have time for,
Your call, sure.
we have time, Suzanne, for a few questions.
And if people want to email us comments or questions, Ben's email us up on the screen.
So everyone sees the email addresses for Dolores and Ben. Questions and comments about the plan can be directed to them. And in the interest of time, though, I think we'll move along. But thank you so much for the presentation,
Yeah, thank you.
all of your hard work and your team's work on this project.
And thank you for your guidance. The plan would be as great as without your input, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Will you stay with us?
All right, we have some good friends of oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We have some good friends of mine and of Boston Harbor Now. We have Alankrita Narang is here, and also she's the Chief Operating Officer of Boston Harbor Now. And Phongdi Tran, where's Phongdi? Oh. Offended. But Alan has a special guest here. If you could introduce your guest as well.
So we're here with Brian Holden from Luke's Lobster. And, you know, as I start the presentation, we'll get to introduce him and speak a little bit more. But thank you so much for having us here today. Y'all might remember we were here back in 2020 doing a presentation to all of you when we were trying to activate the Boston Harbor Islands Welcome Center, which is on the Greenway. As you might imagine, being the nonprofit partner for the Boston Harbor Islands, which is a national and state park, has been quite interesting and challenging in these times. We are quite impacted. The park is going to be impacted, and we're really trying to figure out how. But one thing we know for sure is the seasonal staffing that they get to staff the Welcome Center is going to be half of what it was last year. So the likelihood of activating the Welcome Center with rangers is on the slimmer side for this season, and we're trying to see other ways. But on the flip side, trying to, you know, as the nonprofit partner, really step up in these times to activate these wonderful spaces. We have a really exciting season lined up with programs on both the Harbor Islands and the Harbor Walk. We just finished a strategic plan internally and are really trying to increase our focus on the Harbor Walk, especially with some of the great work done by the Walk District Council and Rich and team, to really help, you know, move forward all this resilience work that has been happening in terms of planning into implementation mode and helping with that. as well as activating these public spaces. So I am excited to say that we are actually hiring, even in these crazy times, it's hard to say that, a harbor walk manager, which would be the first of a kind position focused on the harbor walk solely. The position will work with all the property developers on the waterfront. We have 368 of them, along with, the city, the state of DCR, because they own a lot of pieces of those harbor walk as well. And we'll be coming back once we have hired that position to share a little bit more. But really excited about thinking about resilience and access and having a position dedicated to doing so. And Linda, my colleague, is right here, who will be managing that position. So if you have questions, more than happy to address them post this conversation or offline. In the spirit of activating these open spaces, back in 2020, as I started off saying, you might remember we had come here with night shift roasting, which was an arm of night shift brewing, to come and have a coffee cart at the Welcome Center. They were there for 2 years, but the visitation hadn't quite returned back, so it was hard to activate the Welcome Center post that. But as numbers slowly start building back up on the waterfront and the harbor walk, we were really excited because Lobster had connected with us about a year ago almost, with the potential of activating this space. And we've been in touch with Brian, who's here, and will be sharing a little bit more about the concept we have there, but have been really impressed with their understanding of the mission to activate these spaces, of how do you make them really welcoming, how do you make them so people can actually experience our waterfront, and also as a gateway to the harbor islands, which is what it was always intended to be as well. So excited to have a lobster roll and a hot dog and a grilled cheese and an activation opportunity at the Welcome Center, in the hope that will also increase visitation to the Boston Harbor Islands, because visitation has been declining for them over the years, and this is going to be an activation opportunity for that as well. So I'll kick it off to Brian here to introduce himself. We have a couple slides. If you're able to pull them up,
Let me pull that up.
you should share more about the concept and what we're thinking, and would love your input, and hopefully have you all there for the opening day.
Yeah, and well, thanks for having us in. I'm Brian Holden. I serve as the president of Luke's Lobster. We are a 15-year-old company, family-run business. It's owned and operated by me and my two brothers, Luke and Mike. We came into we just were walking around Boston, walking around the Harbor Walk, and thought that it'd be a good opportunity for our brand. So we just reached out, not knowing it could really turn into an opportunity for us. But just we tend to like to work with nonprofits. We like to try to connect with tourism to the waterfront. So it sort of felt like a win-win-win. So we reached out and proposed working together as a vendor. And what we proposed was setting up a mobile food vending unit. And we have some renderings and things like that we can show you. But it's just a mobile food vending container that would be situated at the Welcome Center. We would be serving our classic menu, which is lobster rolls, crab rolls, shrimp rolls, clam chowder, hot dogs, grilled cheese. Our business is based out of Maine. We have buying stations where lobster and tie up throughout the coast of Maine and Canada. And the way our business works is we source directly from those wharfs. We bring it to our facility in Saco, where we cook it, pick it, pack it, and send it out fresh to our locations. So it's how we're able to operate out of these small footprints like we're proposing in this location. I think we're on the, perfect. We're on the presentation now. So that's some of the background. I can give you a little bit more details on the business. This is a little bit about the ethos of our business. We're a certified B Corp. We became a B Corp in 2018. It was just something that was kind of starting up then. When we recertified in 2021, we I found out that we were the highest scoring restaurant and seafood company in the US and maintain that distinction. So it's a little bit about sort of how we manage our different stakeholders in the business. Go to the next
sure.
slide, please.
Hold on. Oh, there we go.
Oh, perfect. And this is all, will be shared after, but about some more of the product, some of the projects that our business runs. One that we're particularly proud of is a Lift All Boats project. It's that middle one. And something we're trying to find a way, maybe we could incorporate down here, but it's a program we set up in Portland to give access to kids in Maine that don't typically have access to the working waterfront. So we have a restaurant in Portland, which is at the end of a pier that we refurbished. Prior to taking it over, it was sort of defunct. You couldn't walk down it, fishermen couldn't tie up to it. So we rebuilt the pier, instilled walking trails for the public, and then brought the fishermen back. We have a boat that we run out of that where we bring kids down and teach them how to fish, give them their student license. It's been something that's been pretty fun for us, but a bunch of information on this slide if anybody's interested in learning more. Just a little bit more about our production business and sort of some of the byproducts that we produce from lobster production, but I don't think we need to go into that right now. So yeah, this talks a little bit more about what the offering would be. That's our traditional lobster roll. As I was saying, it's all produced at our facility in Saco, Maine. So it comes down cooked, refrigerated, and really all we have to do is assemble on site. I know it's lobsters on the more expensive side of things. So we'll also have things like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, hot dogs, grilled cheese, and other options for people that don't want to buy seafood. This is what we're thinking for our season and our hours. We will definitely listen to the public, and if people want us open later or earlier, we will adjust as we go. But this is based on what we're seeing for foot traffic and wanting to service the ferries and everything along those lines. But again, we're not tied to this. We'll definitely take feedback there.
You ready for the next?
Yes, please. A little bit more about how we'll be setting up the operation. We have two other locations in Boston, one pretty close to here on Washington Street, and then also one in Back Bay. If anybody's curious and kind of seeing how we run some of our operations, but we know that this is a very public location. So we have been working at Boston Harbor now to have a very comprehensive trash program, cleaning program, just to make sure that we're not only activating it, but taking care of the space as well. So this is some information about the planned operation. Next, please. Here is a rendering of the, so everything will be contained within it. So we don't have a long fit out. It's basically just showing up. We can set this up in 2 days, which will allow us to just get right involved in the season.
Is it a container?
It's a container. It's
Okay.
a 20-foot storage container that we retrofit into a restaurant. So it has all the equipment, storage, electrical, everything that we need within it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, with the just, I'm trying to, okay, so I'm looking across the Marketplace Center. So it's on,
The Pattern Hall Marketplace is behind that side, and the view right now is like if Tia's is behind you, then that's your view.
okay,
Within Pattern Hall.
thank you. Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Great.
So that's a little bit about the business, and can definitely entertain any questions or comments or concerns that people might have.
I have a question regarding the tables and chairs. You will be providing the tables and chairs, so people will get their food and they can sit
Yeah,
You don't have table service though.
they can sit and anybody can sit. They'll be open to the general public, but there's just something that our team will provide and clean and take care of. But they'll be open to sort of anybody passing through the welcome center.
What happens at night?
We will lock them up and keep them inside because we have had safety issues in the past, so definitely mindful of those.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, anything that's not, anything that's loose will be locked up at night, for sure.
Can you clarify what a B corporation is? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a certification institute, that was started, it's a Canadian company, it was started, I think, about 10 years ago. And it creates an ecosystem for businesses that generally stand for beyond profit. So it looks at sort of your whole company in terms of how you treat your employees, how you treat your guests, the environment. And it's meant to create an ecosystem for companies that care more about that stuff than generally just the bottom line. So it's been a great thing for our business. It's sort of like a guiding principle. And when we first looked at it, it wasn't sort of like, how do we become a B? It's like, it was like, is this a good fit for us? Is it how we're running our business? And it turns out that it was. And where it's helpful for our business is can be good for marketing purposes, but more than anything, it's really great for our team. So when we're out hiring or recruiting, we find that a lot of our teammates like to see that word B Corp, because it kind of just gives an initial indication of what type of business you are. What's also nice about it is in that ecosystem, there are other B Corps. So there's great networking. A lot of times you can source from other B Corps, and it's just kind of like an initial vetting on sort of how businesses are run. But it's a third party certification.
And they do have these containers in New York and Las Vegas, so they've done it sort of nationally and found good success. And so be there first in Boston.
And what are the colors? Can you put that? picture back?
So this will be most likely before the first ferry leaves till evening. So basically serving lunch and dinner, but also grabbing an option for people, you know, who are taking the ferry out to the island or any other ferry as a matter of fact. There'd be a grab and go option as well.
But the colors, the design of this unit that you're putting on the greenway.
Yes. We are working with Chris and the team to vet all of this through them. We actually had a site visit with them today at the Greenway as well. So they're definitely looped in and good with this project.
And who will be the point person or the manager of this particular business?
Sure. So from Boston half an hour in, it'll be myself and Fondy. And then we will have Brian obviously assist, and then we have teammates on the ground as well, who we'll be working closely with on a daily basis to ensure, especially, you know, looking at safety, looking at cleanliness, looking at that public access space, all of those things. And then we will also have the National Park Service Lead Supervisory Ranger also supervising that space.
I think the question was, what color is the container?
Oh,
Is it
color.
as shown in the slide? I think she just wants to make sure it isn't psychedelic, whatever, covered in big flowers.
It is not psychedelic. We're actually working with them currently to figure out how best it would fit, you know, the park service brand, because it's a park service building. So we're working on the exact design yet, but it will not be big flowers or something really crazy.
Could be whales.
And we're trying to
Squids.
We're trying to co-brand it with the Boston Harbor Islands as well, because a big part of what we're trying to do is bring attention to that. And we were talking about sort of cross-training some of our teammates, just with the lack of maybe some of the rangers on site, that some of our teammates could kind of help fill that void a bit as well. But part of what we're also trying to do is, you know, certainly drive traffic to ourselves, but drive traffic to Boston Harbor now, and Boston Harbor Islands. So we'll put some of that co-branding on as well.
The back of the building has the most amazing map on it. You'll copy that, you could just slather around the building.
That is an amazing map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about, so you have certain retail locations like on Washington Street that I'm aware of. what is the bulk of your business? Do you supply to restaurants or groceries or?
We were vertically integrated, so we buy lobster, process lobster to sell it to ourselves. So our biggest customer is our restaurants. But we do a bit of wholesale as well to Whole Foods. So our biggest customer is ourselves. Our second biggest is Whole Foods, and that's pretty much our business.
That's good to know. Thank you.
May I just
Sure.
add?
Yes, well, we've already got
Yes.
one endorsement in the
It's
chat.
It's the absolute best lobster roll in the city.
All
I
right.
actually eat it in Philadelphia, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, their politics, the food, brilliant.
Thank you.
University.
We're,
It's hard to see.
yeah, the exact address is 294. It's right in the, trying to think what a good marker is for you. It's right in the plaza, like directly across from Walgreens.
Oh, I know you're just.
Across the street, Chipotle. But yeah, it's not, the signage is all sort of monochromatic, on that strip of retail. So it's kind of hard to stand out with a small storefront, but we're right along the Freedom Trail, so.
In terms of the permitting necessary for this, has that already been secured? Or do you need any kind of,
We get 2 permits we're gonna have to secure. One is with the National Park Service because it's their, they own that property in that sense. It's ensuring that the greenway is on board, which is, we've already done that. And the third would be the city permit for food and safety, which Brian was at the city's office this morning, trying to get that going. So we're lining it all up so that we can get it secured.
And a health permit with the city health department and all that.
do you, are you looking for like a letter of, I don't know what we call it, a letter of endorsement or?
I normally in something like this, we wouldn't,
Okay,
but I'm assuming you don't, because
I
it's,
think we should be fine, based on historically having done it with night shift of just having National Park Service and BHN endorse it usually, but we always start it from a community engagement standpoint. You know, before it all gets fully done and finalized, we'd love to share it with you, while we're in this process of going through it, because this is part of this.
personally, I think it would be a terrific addition to the neighborhood and a great enhancement to this area. So I wish you luck.
I agree.
That-
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any questions from anybody on the Zoom for Brian from Luke's Lobster or for Alan Krita from Boston Harbor Now? Sara McCammond also highly recommends the lobster roll. Anybody? Feel free to raise your hand or. Great.
Oh, I think,
Oh, did somebody raise, somebody?
no, Tim was just stretching.
Oh, Tim, Tim.
Sorry, I dropped it in the chat as well. Is it possible to get Brian's email and everything about what's going up over there?
Mind if I?
Yeah, it's Brian with a Y
Brian with a Y, thank you.
at lukeslobster.com.
Did I spell this correctly? And Brian, your last name was?
Holden, Holden.
Oops. Great. Well, Brian and Alon, thank you so much. And thank you for being here also. Appreciate it. And tell me your name again. I'm sorry. Linda. Nice to see you. And great. Well, thank you both very much for being here. Thanks all of you. And we have another speaker. We have a gentleman who's been coming here regularly for, I don't know, a good year now, I would say.
He's also a member.
Yes, and the member of is Arturas Malinauskas. Am I saying correctly?
Yeah.
Wow, got it right.
Do you mind if I share screen?
Absolutely. Let me get that to you. Arturas is the founder of Stroll Tours.
It's raining on.
Oh,
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Really appreciate y'all making some time for me today. My name is Arturas, and I have the fortunate position to both live here in the Wharf District, and I've also started a small business doing a unique type of walking tour here, doing some new routes, and just exploring this great, wonderful city of Boston, which we're all in. A little about myself. I think it's important to note.
Oh,
There we go.
Oh, you got it?
I don't actually have a background as a tour guide or anything. I actually am a trained mechanical engineer, and I actually moved to Boston during the pandemic just a few years ago. While most people were fleeing the cities, I was working as a manufacturing engineer for Amazon Robotics, and that's when I moved here. Please address all complaints or issues here. And it being the pandemic, and just frankly, there not being a lot of people to talk to as I moved to this new city, I was fascinated to walk around the streets and see all these plaques and read about all the incredible things that had happened literally, you know, outside my doorstep. So stuff like the Big Dig, the filling of the Back Bay. And I thought, wow, it's so incredible to appreciate all this and see our present environment in the context of other things that have come before. And so using some of my mechanical engineering skills, I built a little mobile display and built these tour experiences really focused to bring people together with the best times ever. So this little snippet, this is actually Post Office Square just from here. That older classical building is the original post office, built there in the 1870s. And folks have really enjoyed seeing all of these archival photos, a lot of which are actually colorized by myself. So this old photo from the 1800s was actually a sepia tone. And these are actually all designed by myself using my computer modeling skills and 3D printed using hardware that I have. So if anybody ever also randomly, you know, I'm happy to be a good neighbor. If you have stuff that breaks and you need a random replacements, I can help you in quite a pinch. Part of the reason that I started Stroll and Stroll Tours is I moved here to work for Amazon, and I've always wanted to just try this American dream, starting a company. And I actually am trying to bootstrap something in machine design automation space. And these tour business is a great outlet for me to practice public speaking skills, all those things they don't teach in engineering school, and also maintain a little bit of revenue to pay the wonderful rents in this great part of town. So right now I have two incredible tour experiences that are quite different from each other. The first one I call the Building Blocks of Boston, which starts really with the founding of Boston and seeing it be built up over 400 years. And then the other offer I'm calling Seaport Scores, and that's actually a much more social experience, and it's one that I'm going to invite everybody here, businesses, residents. I'll be hosting a public tour for free, just for us to get to know each other a little bit better. I feel like even though I might be a little younger, I probably know or at least have seen some cool photos and content about this great neighborhood of ours. But a little more about Building Blocks of Boston. This is just a map of the tour routes. So apologize, the contrast isn't great on the screen here. But walking around Boston Common, Downtown Crossing through Post Office Square. It's just over a mile. And again, it starts with the Winthrop Fleet. Why did 700 people decide to get on a boat and wait for 2 months through choppy seas and storms, and then going through things like the filling of the Back Bay, which, as you can see here, pretty incredible project. Over 30 years, I apologize, the contrast in this projector isn't amazing. But as well as stuff like the Great Boston Fire, which ruined much of the downtown area, and also has had some incredible photographs from that period. Again, this is colorized using modern technology from what were black and whites. and then the Big Dig, and then Seaport Stores. This is what I'm inviting everybody to come out onto. This is an appreciation of our great waterfronts, which we have here, and an exploration through a few cultural challenges. Everybody is going to actually be given a little mini whiteboard during the activity, which is nice because it also functions as a name tag for folks who don't know each other. And then this will be the way to score points through a few cultural challenges, guessing games, just fun little activities to engage with the wonderful things that make Boston great. I think folks have a just ton of fun with this. It's been, I actually made this tour out of customer requests for ways to have a more engaging experience, more social one. And I'm really excited to share that with the neighborhood. And again, lots of photos and fun stuff to be shared. You can sign up for a ticket. Again, free tour, but I just appreciate the advance notice of the reservation so I can know how many people to expect. Because there are a few little giveaways and goodies that I like to give people to enhance the experience. And this will be Sunday, April 26th at 1 p.m. And the start point is in front of the Moakley Courthouse in Seaport at 4 Northern Avenue. And then the tour will actually end right here at this great, beautiful dome at Rose Wharf. And yes, I see a question.
We're already registered.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes.
The starting point is the Moakley Courthouse. You said the tables.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
actually.
the water side or the front?
So right here, right in front of this plaque, by the benches, this should be in an email. Actually, I recently changed my website, so if any information is a little unclear, I really do appreciate it being called out, as I might not have adjusted everything. Okay, I'll make sure to edit this and.
We're registered.
Awesome, thank you so much. I really appreciate the enthusiasm. So yeah, this will be starting points, other details. Happy to answer any other questions.
How long is the?
That tour is going to be about 2 hours, just underneath that, and it's about 1.1 miles walking. And there's going to be about 10-minute break in the middle if you need restrooms, water, and that's actually going to be in the BSA Art Gallery space. They have a public restroom there, so. And I think they'll have a new exhibition open by then. I know right now it's anyway, we're folks not familiar with that.
So as an engineer, how did you develop your interest in history?
So that's a great question. So a lot of my interest actually came from how did people do this crazy stuff? Actually I've read a civil engineering report on the building of South Station, which, fun fact, for people who don't know, there's a lot of landfill around Boston. South Station is literally built on the ashes and rubble from the Great Fire of 1872. It's literally just shoved into the harbor. It's like, what are we gonna do with all this trash? And it was a lot easier to do things back in the day. Now I've actually seen like the floor plan of the foundation engineering and how that happened. And anyway, trying to understand what can be done in the modern day from an engineer's perspective, I think it's very helpful to understand how people used to do things and, with more primitive things, still incredible achievements happened.
Yes.
So love sharing that, but also try and make it easy and accessible for non-engineers.
Do your tours show these fabulous photographs?
Yeah, so the photos are shown on the mobile display that I carry around. And I'm actually working on a bigger one. I don't have the photo ready of that. But yeah, I want to make sure that people are able to see this stuff. And I also share a file with a few of the colorizations and stuff. So even after the tour, you can still appreciate them and reference them. I also do have social media, Instagram, Facebook page, at @HiStroller if you want to share, follow me. But I will be honest, I'm definitely more of an engineer. I'm not so good at social media yet.
What's the maximum number of people you have in a group?
I've done a tour with about 50 people before. That was a private event for a Montessori school, so it was a lot of kids, and then it was about half kids and then their parent chaperones. I think that probably my upper limit would be about 50s. I do private events as well. Anybody has something special. Yeah.
For those of you here, we're registered on the 1 o'clock tour on April 26th. He's giving the same tour, it'll probably be better, from 3 to 5. Okay?
Well, I think that's my other tour, I think maybe. Actually,
The information said 1 or 3.
okay.
Why do you think it will be better?
Because I was being fun.
No,
We'll warm him up and then you get him.
yeah. So yeah, I appreciate feedback, and especially for folks who have lived here probably longer than I have. I love getting to know other people's little juicy gossip and secrets about the area. It's just so wonderful to get the community together.
Thank you.
You can go to my website, stroll.com/tickets, and this is actually called the Wharf District Welcome Tour. It's only available at that one time. So it should be you know, I can't say I was super creative. I actually was originally called Behold Boston Tours. That's what I started as last year, but folks seem to not remember Behold Boston. They'd say like Beyond Boston or something to me, and I was like, all right, well, I carry this big scroll around, and that's kind of like this mobile display. So honestly, if you think of a better name for this, I'm open to it. But for right now, Stroll and Stroll Tours, I could get the domain for the .com, and that QR code also works. But
How are you getting traffic to your site?
right now it's a mix of TripAdvisor, Get Your Guide. I'm a partner with New Boston, the city's tourism board, and a little bit through the sparse social media I've done. Definitely open for suggestions for improving traffic. Yeah.
Anyone else have questions for Arturas?
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to get you to do one for the Wharf District.
Yeah.
Oh, just
The
along
Wharf
here.
District.
Yeah. So I didn't talk about it yet, but I am planning something for kind of 250th anniversary, a special tour that's actually going to be mostly through I think maybe starting right in front of where the Tea Party Museum is, and then moving up towards the Customs House area, and kind of exploring a lot of those protest sites and stuff that's not on the Freedom Trail. It's in the Wharf District. This is where stuff was that no longer is. But thanks to mobile displays, I can still show it all. So look forward to that in the future, but I still need to beta test that one a little bit more.
Thank you, Arturas. If you could,
Fabulous, thank
Yeah.
you.
if you could return the hosting to me, that'd be
Oh,
great. Terrific, thank you. And Chris Cook could not be here tonight, but I think Suzanne has.
But you're lucky you have me.
Yes, yes.
I just want to, kind of just list what the Greenway events programs are that are coming out. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't make it. But they're, we don't have a slide or anything, but I think the best thing to do is go on the Greenway website, and you can actually find all these different activities. But the spring kickoff on the Greenway is going to be Thursday, the 17th, which is 2 days from now. And I'm not sure what it is, because it doesn't say what it is on the paper, but it sounds good. There's free carousel day and a spring scavenger hunt on Monday, the 21st, from 11 to 6 p.m. So that might be good if you have grandchildren or children. There's a Greenway Spring Fest, formerly the Greenway Food Truck Festival. And that's on Saturday, May 17th, 11 to 5 p.m. That's in the Wharf District. And then, of course, there's the Gala on the Greenway, which is Thursday, June 5th. I hope you have your tickets, or getting your tickets. It's a fabulous event. We're so fortunate to have it on the Greenway. And it's, of course, centered around the fountain, which is under repair right now, but will be ready for the gala. Then Glow in the Park is Friday, June, I didn't say the date, yes, I did say the date, Thursday, June 5th for the gala, Friday, June 6th for Glow in the Park. And that again is at the Rings Fountain, starts at 7:30. And that's highlights on the green wall.
Are all these events online?
It is all online. It's all online.
And the events, Florie just put in the chat that the events are in the WDC calendar on our website also.
Right, which,
Thank you, Florie.
did you have a question?
What is the installation that we're across from the Atlantic? Looks like a swing set, but I'm sure it's something else.
That is artwork, that's the artwork project that is going up, as you know, they only stay for like, I think it's a year and a half. Unfortunately, I don't know what it is, it's not.
Looks like a swing set right now.
Actually, that's what Chris was gonna talk. Chris, but he didn't give me the information.
The other one's not, is the other one going away?
Yes,
Where's it going?
I don't know, they just.
Somebody's gonna be donating some. The kids do.
A lot of them are,
Yeah.
you know, some of them go to other homes. But I'm sure Chris could let you know what, if it's going to another home. Okay, I don't think Mark is on the. It's on.
Yes, so we have a few updates on the newsletter.
Right, but there was a climate resiliency task force update, but
Okay.
Mark is not here, so. Yeah.
Mark, are you here? Are you able to talk about the Climate Resilience Task Force?
Here he is.
Marc Margulies, are you on the call?
He is, but maybe he's not. That's all right, if he comes back on.
That's all right.
Just wanna give you some updates on, Work District Council communication. The, spring newsletter was sent out. And, it's, I believe, it hit the streets on April 1st. Don't look at my notes there long. And the summer newsletter, we will start, sending out information for articles for our summer newsletter, which will come out in June. So we're trying to expand the audience that we're reaching on the newsletters with respect to putting information or ads. When I say ads, there's no charge. I mean, ads on the in the newsletter. But that starts on May 23rd and it will go out at the beginning of June. And it's on our website. If you haven't seen the spring letter, you should have all received.
Yep.
An email containing the spring letter. Before I go any further, I know Fern is on the I don't know, he's still here, yes. Fern was the Wharf District Council representative for Love Your Block. And Arturas and I actually participated, I think.
I just visited.
I want to thank Fern for being a pioneer and signing up and being the representative, the first time representative for the Wharf District on the project. And Fern, would you like to say a few words?
I thank you for that. I appreciate everyone that came out to help. One of our bud tenders noticed that there were a lot of cigarettes at certain locations, primarily in front of bars. But while walking around, and especially after picking up all those cigarette butts, we started to pay attention to how other people are dealing with that in other areas. And I'll put a picture in the chat. There's a, let's see if I can find it. There's a way that you can recycle cigarette butts. There's like this device that they attach to stop signs, and some of the areas that have a lot of bars or restaurants have them all out there. was trying to add it to this chat, but I'm unable to hear. But Suzanne, what I'll do is I'll send you an email of it. Might be something a good idea to have in the Wharf District. I don't know how much of an eyesore it would be, but it would help keep the streets clean from at least cigarette butts.
Yes, please send it to me because the chat information is not really retrievable with the Zoom recording. So if you can send it to me separate from.
I will for sure.
I can share.
Yeah, there's something called Recycled Cigarette Butts. Downtown Boston Alliance does it. It's like a black box that has a yellow sticker with the recycling symbol on it, and it just wraps around looks like a stop sign, and then people can put their cigarette butts in there, but might be something worth either having in the area or in certain locations.
You know, I've seen those and they're really nice. I mean, they're a lot better than the cigarette butts over the sidewalk. So definitely worth it.
Great. Yeah. So.
Anything else, Fern?
No, one thing that we did think of after, like, I'm assuming this is a yearly thing that's always done the same time of year. It might be something to maybe do later in the spring or beginning of the summer. I think it'd be easier to get people to come out and walk around, especially when we have these fake spring days where it's 35 degrees and raining or potentially 65 degrees. So I was pleasantly surprised with how it felt good kind of picking up trash around our area. Granted, it's very clean where we are. So that's also nice to not see lots of trash. I know Suzanne and I were running after cans at one point looking for big things. So it was definitely nice to be able to pick up and just give back.
Right, and perhaps we can expand the area next year too.
Yeah, yeah.
Cans were the second biggest item, lots of cans. And a few liquor bottles here.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was, I mean, extremely clean.
Bern, thank you for leading that effort. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. No problem.
The next thing is, I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of the activity that's going on our website. We don't have slides of it, but we've emphasized that we have new sections. One is called Eat, Drink, Stay, and Play on the website. And if you go on the website, you'll see a map and the little, I don't know, pins. And then under the map, there are different categories of the different places to dine. So if you hit on the pin, or if you're looking for a category, this is just one page, but it goes on just for several pages of places listing all the places in the Wharf District. So I encourage you all to use this as a guide when you're looking for things. There's also a list of hotels to stay. We only have 6, which they're on here if you're looking for places in the Wharf District to send guests or something. Also want to thank Florie, who does our meeting minutes, and she also is the one who updates this as well as the Wharf District calendar of events, also on the website. This goes out for months and it's updated constantly. I don't know how often you update it, Florie, but you're doing a fabulous job.
Hi, I try to update it every month.
Every month. So unlike a lot of the calendars where it's difficult to keep up with the activities on them, we are actually doing it in the Wharf District, thanks to Florie. So this, I encourage you to also utilize this. Now I know that folks have said gee, can't you color code the different areas that are on the website, like the different types of events? And the answer is the program that we use, maybe Arturas can help us, you cannot color code this, so it's all blue. So unfortunately, you have to trudge through the different blues in order to find what you're looking for. There's no colors.
Suzanne,
What
how do you get the newsletter?
if you're on our mailing list, did you get an invitation to this
No,
meeting?
I didn't. Someone told me because they knew I was interested.
Okay, well, I'll have to get your email because everything comes. You know, if you're on our mailing list, then you would get the newsletter, you would get, the meeting minutes, you'll get different things. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments about the calendar or e-place, eat, drink, stay and play. I think so.
We get all the info.
It looks good, Susan.
It does.
And one more item, on May 10th, this has not gone out yet. May 10th, we are having, he calls it office hours with Counselor at Large Henry Santana. He's one of our counselors. They get elected every 2 years. So I would encourage you on Saturday, May 10th at 10 o'clock, if you, at 11 o'clock, Saturday, May 10th, and if you're on the mailing list, you will be getting this. Stop by here, actually, this room, and say hello to Councilor Santana, and they will be providing coffee and pastries. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments on that.
Any questions or comments?
No, good meeting.
Yeah, anything else?
Just one other small thing. As far as the newsletter, I'm sorry, the website is concerned, we are going to be updating the website when they become available. The information associated with the climate resiliency project, which includes the video that the committee's been working on, as well as a community handbook that would be useful to other neighborhoods in association with how to do as a neighborhood to prepare for what is going to be needed for your neighborhood to have to be up to date in receiving climate resiliency project requirements, which are quite extensive, if anyone knows what the Wharf District went through to become up to speed. That's also on the website. So if you've got time to read 180 pages, I think you can read the executive summary.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And
Great to see
one
you.
other final, and then I'll go. The mayor's office had a, okay, good to see you. Thank you for coming. The mayor's office had a, I don't know his exact, he's a director of exact title, Superintendent of Basic City Services. Meet with some of us at the Wharf District Council related to State Street and the reevaluation that the city is doing on what they are going to do with State Street. So it's not, we should not automatically assume there's going to be a bicycle lane there. They're reevaluating it.
Thank God.
Well, it hasn't, we haven't, he sent out a letter, and interesting enough, on April 2nd, and he doesn't deal with what's gonna happen to State Street. So I have a call into his office, but I thank everyone for all the support that the neighborhood has given in objecting to the project that the city was planning to do. That's not to say they won't go ahead and do it, but right now it's being looked at again by the mayor's office.
You can find it probably out of the World District Council. You know when they're gonna open the other direction in Congress at the number 1 State Street, does anyone know?
Where is number 1 State Street? Is that?
You know where Congress Street is? They've been tearing down that parking garage for 5 years. Does
I
anyone
have
know
no-
when it's being open, coming in the other direction? Or if it's if it's gonna be a 2-way street?
No idea.
You're talking about the government right now? Or is it,
It's like Congress Street. or-
It's,
yeah, Congress Street headed towards the Boston Public Market?
yeah,
Yeah. I'm not sure when I know that the direction towards the highway is open. I'm not sure when, I don't have an update for when the other.
I know, no one,
Yeah.
I asked everyone, no one seems to know.
I can see if we can find something out for you. I am the chief of staff to the counselor, at least Angela, the Catholic 11 spot.
Hi, Jane Stricker, I live in Harvard Town.
The council's also gonna be having a meet and greet with Howard the Harvard. May 6th, I believe, I think, yeah, May 6th.
Put that on the list. I think we have a flyer. I know, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so that's just for Harvard Towers, right?
I think, is that everything? Is there anything else, any order of business, or is?
I have nothing else.
Great, well, thank you.
Except just tell people the next meeting.
Yes, our next meeting, everybody, will be Tuesday, May 20th. Our May meeting. May 20th will be the next Wharf District Council meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting tonight,
Yes, thank you.
and have a good evening. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.